Alright guys, so where to actually power level your weapons and your Descendants has slightly changed a little bit from what it was in the early part of Season 2. With the mid-season patch, they've kind of shook up the special op terminal and put in a couple different missions. Previously, you would want to use the defense mission to power level your Descendants. However, with the changes to the sandbox and the mix-up that they've done recently with how enemies spawn, the defense is actually exponentially harder than it used to be. The fact is that enemies only have one point to go to in order to create a failure. So because of that, defense is not actually the play anymore. You want to do the Kuiper mines to level your Descendants and the weapons because you have a higher chance for success, and it is much easier to succeed given the fact that the failure point is the enemies trying to kill you and not the enemies trying to break a single item. If you're unsure what I mean, go ahead and try a defense mission and you will see how much harder it is to stay alive and how much faster and easier it is to fail that than it used to be in the past. So having said that, I do want to kind of go over a few tips for the new Kuiper mine mission and things you need to be aware of to make your farming levels for both your Descendant and weapons much easier. So my number one tip here is don't split up from your team. I know that seems antithetical to what you want to do here, but splitting up will actually slow down your XP gains. And the reason for that is there's basically a 150 meter drop off range on how far you can be away from your teammates and still gain XP. So while you might think it's faster to split up with your teams to get through the earlier zones faster, it is actually going to hurt you long term. So do yourself a favor and stick with your team, because this will help you clear the zones faster and make sure you are within that radius so you're getting XP the entire time you're here, because after all, that's why you're doing this. Try to be aware of any shielded enemies that spawn. Most people are going to be using their Descendants and by extension their skills to level up here. The problem is when the shield is on these enemies, your skills do not hit them. And I've noticed that a lot of people just tend to stand back and spam skills and nobody actually uses their gun to break these shields. Doing that's the wrong play because your skills cannot hit them while them shields are up. So go ahead and do you and your teammates a favor, and anytime you see these, go ahead and try to focus fire them and burn them down as fast as possible. That way you can clear that drill much faster. Once you start getting to waves 6 and 8 on, the enemies will get increasingly harder. If you find that you are having problems surviving, at this point don't feel bad if you decide to pick a teammate to group up with. At the end of the day, you're doing more DPS alive than you are dead. So with these points being a little bit of a distance apart from each other, keep in mind that you can use the Grapple Fling, and that Grapple Fling will allow you to traverse the map that much faster. If you haven't seen it before, basically at the end of your in-air grapple, right before you get to the little grapple point, go ahead and hit your melee, and when you do, it will fling you off. Doing that keeps your momentum and gives you a little bit of extra distance. This doesn't seem like a huge thing, but once you get used to it, it does make traversing the map that much faster and easier. I would also say it's not a bad idea to go ahead and have movement speed on your weapon if you do have weapons that have been cored. Now, having said that, a lot of people are going to be coming in here to level weapons, and those weapons will not be cored. Again, this isn't a big deal, but this is something to keep in mind if you are leveling Descendants and not weapons, as that extra move speed does go a long way in making this much faster to clear. Once you start getting to the later stages, you will notice that there are electric enemies that spawn that do have a laser beam. Try to avoid this at all costs. Basically, anytime you see you're getting hit, go to cover almost immediately. That laser beam does a lot of power no matter what Descendant you're on, and you would be surprised at how fast it will burn you out. The other thing to know is it feels like those enemies are literal aimbots, and no matter what you do, if you break line of sight or if you try to run, as soon as they see you, they will instantly start beaming you. So be careful peeking after you go to hide if you're still low health, because they will kill you faster than you realize. Make sure you're using either a weapon or a character XP boost when you go to do these, as well as putting XP bonuses on your components. The numbers don't seem that large when you look at them, but it can be the difference between you getting an entire 40 levels in one run or being just shy and having to start a second run just to finish out your Descendant or a weapon. And one of the last things to note, if you did not know, is that you can go ahead and put catalysts on your characters while you are in these missions. You do not have to wait to the end to put catalysts on your weapons and armor. The big reason to do this is so you're not wasting XP and running more times than you need to. And that's it, guys. That should be all of the tips I have to help you power level your weapons and gear with the changes that came during mid-season of Season 2. If you found these tips helpful, please leave a like and a comment down below, as well as subscribing for more First Descendant content in the future. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.